Timing and feel are the two most important things in this business. You can't get by if you have those two aspects. They say they understand, but I know that they don't.
Every single NXT superstar credit you for getting better.
I've been there now for 10 years. A lot of the teaching isn't right there in the moment. It's a couple months or a year down the road.
Nobody had ring gear like you in the 90s.
Talking to Macho Man, he wanted to have something new all the time, and that's something that I took forward.
You had a Hall of Fame career up to 1998, a Hall of Fame career from 2002 on.
Honored to have had both. Of course, I would love to do the first part different. However, I don't know where I'd be if I didn't go through that.
Everybody knows you got to turn it up for WrestleMania, but nobody put it into another gear like you.
WrestleMania bordered on dangerous obsession. I went over every possible scenario.
I don't know if anybody had a better 3-year WrestleMania run. Which one meant the most to you?
They all mean a lot, but if I'm to be objective, it's...
Do you consider that match at Crown Jewel your last match?
That's just one-off. Would it count if I went into the Rumble this year?
Are you going to?
Big deal. You've had a lot of big wigs on, so...
Yeah, I'm
honored to be a part of it.
I'm honored to have you on. So thank you for making this happen.
Yeah, you bet. Not a problem.
What a career you've had. It's absolutely amazing. And what you're doing now, I feel like you're like really sinking your teeth into this. Where did this conversation even begin for what you're doing now in NXT?
Well, I guess it depends on how far you want to go back. I'll say this. And again, to be perfectly honest, way back in 1998, obviously, when I left wrestling and thought I was kind of done, my wife and I talked about, again, and I had the Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy, which I started. And of course, I can remember not long after that, obviously my life changing a great deal, all for the positive, and begin thinking about, the giving back process of all of that and being able to maybe one day have this facility. Anyway, so you fast forward all these years later and it's not the way that I thought it would go, but sure enough, it ends up here I am again in this, wrestling environment, and is in a way obviously giving back and and giving back in the thing that that at least comes natural to me. So anyway, so that's part of it. That's, I guess, more of the spiritual side. But honestly, I can remember when Hunter talked about NXT and, just asking me to come by one time. And, I had been to a couple events while I was retired, but I was in Texas at the time and, again, thought it was fantastic. We went on a vacation to Florida, taking the family out there, and they just happened to, be doing a television show, and Hunter was in town, and then and wanted me to come down and see the Performance Center and be just come in and see what I think. And when I walked through those doors, that feeling just sort of came back. And because I sort of, again, when I retired, I just exited and wasn't around that environment anymore. So when I came back in, it was just something that clearly was noticeable, because when I went back to, again, the home we were renting, and just, again, we rented a house for the week to go on vacation and stuff. And I came back and my wife said, obviously it went well. And I said, yeah, I know it did. What do you mean? And she said, I can just see the look. And so we just got into this big conversation about, again, that conversation that I told you about in and again, by that time it was 1999 when she and I had first met and talking about that stuff. But, and that's kind of the first time she revealed to me in all of my retirement. She said that, well, I was surprised that you walked away when you did and how you just completely left it. She said, I always figured you'd go back and you'd do something with them, but when you said you were done, you were actually really done, and nobody was more surprised than I was. And so we just, again, had a very, awesome conversation. My wife and I are, we've lived our whole lives like that. So our relationship started doing things that we both feel, and, have this unbelievable impulse and what we call it, it's a calling. in our lives. And in a matter of probably 3 hours in this conversation, we had made the decision to go back to Texas, pack up in 3 weeks, and move our entire lives to Florida. Wow. And that's what we did.
And you've been there almost 10 years now, right?
Yes. And I've been there almost a decade now, yeah.
Every single NXT superstar that I sit across from or anyone that spent time in NXT, they all credit you for getting better. Not everybody who's great in the ring is able to be a great teacher. How are you able to be a great teacher?
So I'll say this. I don't know if I am a great teacher. That was probably the most challenging thing about it when I came in first as a coach. But I was very upfront with everybody this was kind of my, it's one thing to teach the basics and share your experiences. So I think what helped me, teach was being able to connect with these people on such a personal level, a relationship level. And I was kind of in their minds freshly out. I was still relevant. And I think that's one of the things that makes the difference. There are times now as the years go on, we always, or at least I joke about it. And because I joke about it because it's true. I've been there now for 10 years. The athletes now, they're so used to seeing me. I no longer walk on water. Now I'm just the guy that kind of yells at the television and every now and then, again, gets in their face or tries to tell them this or that. I'm the boss here and there. And it's not quite the same. The things that I say may not always carry the weight that it once did at the beginning from a coaching level, but it is something that most of them, once they go up to the main roster and now they experience some of those things that I was talking about, that's when it connects. Now a lot of the teaching isn't right there in the moment. It's a couple months or a year down the road, and then they walk back into the performance center and said, A, B, C, and D, this happened, and that's exactly what you talked about.
Are you telling me there might be people that are coming up through the system that have never seen a Shawn Michaels match?
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely some of it. Well, look, and look, some of them now with some of our athletes, I think there are a lot that may not even know who I am or what I did.
Well, that's silly.
Yeah, well, look, I think they probably, I don't know. That is a guess on my part.
Everybody,
but I know we've had some, certainly when they come to tryouts.
At bare minimum, they know your theme song.
Yeah, for sure. Well, who else? I'm very thankful that the theme song always works. That connects with everybody.
You're not their boy toy.
Still one of the greatest songs ever, if you ask me, and something that we were talking about it the other day. I'm one of the few guys that's never changed his theme song, and I never will.
It's so good.
Yeah, and at 60, it's hilarious to me that we're still doing it. But that's the thing. I feel like HBK, that character, even at 60, can get away with it, which is, I don't know. That's one of the things I'm most proud of because, again, nobody takes me, or that character that seriously now. And that was part of, who he was.
My favorite line from your theme song will always be, hands off the merchandise.
Yeah. Well, again, I give Jimmy Hart so much credit for that. When it first came out, I can remember hearing it and thinking like, oh, geez. When you go singles and you pitch yourself as a single star, you kind of see yourself, everybody sees himself more as the action hero guy. Kevin Nash always describes it as the guy that's flying the helicopter with a cigar in his mouth and the M16 in his hand and the girl under his arm, doing everything cool.
Yeah.
And my character obviously was not really close to any of that. But then as I began to, I got with Sherry and then began to embrace it and then just be able to find out who this was and the boy toy stuff that was in the song was so helpful in that and helping me find out, who it would be and who HBK would eventually become. And so Jimmy Hart and that song deserves so much credit for everything that I accomplished because it was the tool that I used to find that character.
Do you remember the day being in the studio, actually singing those lyrics?
I do. And I just remember bits and pieces of it and just talking with Jimmy and telling him, I don't have a good voice. My voice is so deep and I can't get high pitches and even the screaming at the beginning.
Is that you?
No, God, no.
Okay.
No, for heaven's sake. But it was just, I don't even have really levels when it comes to singing. And so I don't know. I was just and I was self-conscious anyway, but, and he was great. He just said, don't worry about it. We'll make you sound great, baby. And, I think they did whatever it is they do. And they don't have, obviously they didn't have at that time all the wonderful bells and whistles they have now. So, but yeah, they did a great job. And it was just it was sort of icing on the cake when it goes from Sherry singing it to me singing it. I don't know. Again, just that whole process. It's so ludicrous, all of it. And I think that's what makes it, so special.
Did you look at the lyrics and go, I'm not your boy toy?
It was that's what I'm saying. It was just so ludicrous. And it wasn't even, like I said, I can't express it enough. It was just not really where I saw myself going. And I don't know. I felt I could be more of who I maybe was later on when I was 35, 36, again, with a little bit of grit. And with, again, with the cooler looking cowboy hat, but it was, again, a little bit more of grit and toughness to him. But that was, at that time, that just wasn't something I think I was going to pull off. And I don't know, it was just so unique and different because once I heard that song, that's when I began to then think about, okay, I'm going to do this. Who are two people that I can think of that I can connect with on that level that are this type of showman? And it was Freddie Mercury and Elvis. And those were the two people that I began to focus on. I don't know. And that's what really got me to the point to where I could be comfortable out there because I can't dance a lick. I can't sing. Even though I was playing this character, I had no game, as the kids say. Really, when it came to girls and stuff like that, I was very shy. All of that character is 100% based on a bunch of BS that I've never actually really had. And in fact, a person that I spent the majority of my life, in one hand, you kind of wish you were, but I was never able to really pull that off in real life. And so it just gave me this place to be able to jump into, to be this person that was, so unbelievably obnoxious and cool and into himself that, and comfortable in his own skin because I wasn't at that time.
Nobody had ring gear like you in the 90s. Was that all just part of like these influences that you were talking about?
It was that and Randy Savage. I can remember, talking to Macho Man one time and Randy, again, it was just more about, as I was going singles, was more about kind of asking him about his gear and the person that made his gear. And Macho was very, very sheltered in that he had his person and there was no way he was coming off that information, but he just mentioned that he just had to, he wanted to have something new and fresh all the time. It was still based around, again, the cowboy hat and his boots and stuff like that, but he had a different look all the time. And that's something that I took forward with me because I could see people you could have the one consistent sort of character-based look that you wanted. But again, I just felt at that time I was not somebody. I had to make sure I had everything. I did not feel at that time if I had any hole in my game, that was going to give them a reason not to use me or not to go with me. So I didn't have the luxury of not checking every box possible because I was already somebody that wasn't really, I'm not one that they're looking to kind of go with.
You have all of this knowledge from decades of doing what you did in the ring. And now what you're doing in NXT, how are you able to distill this down to people like in the simplest way? Like where does that begin?
Well, it's me meeting them where they're at.
Okay.
And I will say that's something that, and I apologize for probably not answering your question the last time, but on the coaching aspect, I try to meet them where they're at. One of my biggest challenges, I recognize that now I do the unbelievable gift that I was given to be able to do this stuff. So much of it came natural to me. So much of it I didn't have to try to find or to do. I also had the luxury of breaking in at a time when there were so many awesome guys in the territory days that were there for me when I was young to pass down all this knowledge. And they did it to me early. And I started working early to apply or listen to everything that they were saying. But it's more about meeting them where they're at and finding out what's the best way I can convey what it is I'm looking to get across to them. And a lot of it, I have to be careful of not going too far down the road. They're not going to understand a lot of things like psychology. Also, for instance, we just found out recently, again, we're out doing live events now, but now not just the Florida loop, because we've done those for as long as, I can remember. But now we're back out doing live events in different cities and different towns. This is some of our talents' first time ever getting out of the state of Florida, with the exception of PLEs, which again are their own sort of aspect, right, and live events. So we always talk about this. There's TV, there's live events, there's PLEs. They're all kind of different. And all those performances have to be different. And this feel and so many things that we say that they haven't had the opportunity to really experience because we're in the Performance Center on a regular basis. And that audience is an audience that is sort of there playing their part on television and doing their role, which they do in a great way, more often than not. But so the reception that they get in a I don't know, Charleston, or an Augusta, Georgia, and another place, they're all three different. And this last time on the road, they all experienced that, and it was something that threw them all off. And they didn't really understand it because so many of the things that they do all the time didn't work. And so those are aspects that once they experience that, I can now begin to associate with them on a level that we haven't been able to do it before.
So much of pro wrestling is teachable, but then there's a whole other aspect that is just intangibles. So what are some of the intangibles that someone either they have it or they don't? It's not teachable.
I think when we talk about feel, those are things that, and timing. Timing and feel are probably, in my opinion, the two most important things in this business. You can get by with so much more if you have those two aspects. You can be a little short in athleticism. You can be a little short in psychology. You can be a little short in, overall knowledge of the game, so to speak, if you have timing and a real feel. Because those are things that, and, I guess charisma plays a part in that. But if you have timing and feel, I feel like the charisma and all the other is going to sort of match that timing and feel, if that makes sense. I know sometimes when I talk about this, I know I don't always make sense to a lot of people, but I guess that's the level that I feel like I'm.
I think what's fascinating about it is like some of this stuff must come so easy to you that it's probably difficult for you to articulate it because natural for you, but you're trying to find the words to say it, and maybe it's not the easiest thing to do.
Well, that goes back to that's where I was challenged as a coach.
Sure.
Because so much of it was natural. And so when I was able, and this is the biggest thing, I don't get the opportunity now in this role to do what I did with the talent before when I was coaching, which is sit there and watch a match and be able to tell them, okay, now we've watched it. I'm going to give you a couple thoughts and tips and advice. Now I want us to go back and watch it again, but now we're going to watch it with our eyes closed. And I just want you to listen to the crowd. And because again, we always talk about listening to them and feel. And I know very well they say they understand, but I know that they don't, because unless you sit there and you close your eyes and you just do nothing but listen to the crowd, that's when you can begin to feel them going up. You can feel having them and not having them. And that doesn't mean they have to be making a lot of noise. They can be making no noise, but you can still feel a buzz in the building. And that means you have them. And they have to physically feel those things. And while they're out there in the moment, they just can't manage to do it, I don't think. And so that's one of the sort of things that were, whatever drills that I went through when I was coaching, that I had the time to do, that helped the light go on for many of them. And I don't know how many people, again, that takes a long time, and to try to convey to people and try to get them to feel it and understand that. And I don't know how many opportunities they get at that.
How long did it take you to learn that skill?
Well, look, it's something you never stop learning. I think you just get better at it as you go. I will say this. I felt like I was pretty darn good at this stuff at about, again, I'm going to say 2.5 years, but not at a high level, if that makes sense.
You had
everything
an understanding
that I needed.
of it.
Yeah, had a very good understanding of it all at 2.5 years, I think. And then it was just really, again, getting better on all of those aspects of it. And then you get to the point where you say you're good. Oh, now I've really got a handle on this. Then 5 years later, you say to yourself, I thought I did then, but now I do. Then the third time you do it, you realize, okay, there's no end to this. I'm just going to be able to get better at this. And every time I think I know something, I recognize there's more to learn. And the aspect of you never stop learning in this is the reality.
The first ever WrestlePalooza is this weekend. Who do you think's gonna win? The odds are up now at MyBookie. CM Punk and AJ Lee are the favorites over Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. That match is gonna be all kinds of fun. It looks like Stephanie Vaquer will be the next WWE Women's World Champion. She's the favorite over Io Sky. They've got Cody Rhodes as the favorite over Drew McIntyre. And for John Cena versus Brock Lesnar, the odds are tight here. John Cena is a slight favorite over Lesnar, but like real slight favorite. And now that the NFL season's back, you can get in on that action. Baseball playoffs are right around the corner. Boxing, UFC, all of it. And if you're new to MyBookie, use my code CVV, and any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. So make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your bet back bonus token. No better time to jump in, no better place to play. Bet anything, anytime, from anywhere, only at MyBookie.
Did you have an inkling 2.5 years in? If I keep working at this and if I keep improving and getting better, I could be one of the greatest of all time.
No, that was, again, that's something that, again, you'll regurgitate out of your mouth. But it wasn't for me until I think 1995 that I felt like I had a real chance to be a main event type of individual. It wasn't until 1995 that, and I guess, I don't know, that was at a decade in.
So we're talking right after WrestleMania 10?
Honestly, that was the first time.
Wow.
That was the first time that I really felt like, holy cow, I can do this stuff. And there's a landscape now in the WWE that I can see the possibility of that happening.
How much of this was just raw talent, and how much of it was just you working at it and putting the time in?
So, as I mentioned, I knew that I had a gift. But the one thing, again, for all of my faults, for which there were many, as we know, there was never a time when I didn't work at it. And that also came natural and easy for me. So I think it's a combination of the two. I've always, especially when it comes to this line of work, I was always a hard worker.
Who instilled that in you?
I don't know. I think probably my dad, obviously. But again, I really wanted to be good at it. And then once you have that realization that, holy cow, I could really be good, and then it's able to get bigger than that, it's very easy to again, I go back to, I was driven already on the road, again, to getting to 1995. And at 1995, when I really felt there was a real possibility, it was really easy to just go and really, work at it. And none of it was hard. None of it felt like it was laborious to me. I enjoyed it. So those are the things. And again, that like I said, that came from my father, which was, him telling me, if you can make a living at something you enjoy, you'll be so much better than so many of the people out there. I didn't know, however, that if, you could actually really love what you do, and that drives you to, again, to be, I don't know, at least overly passionate about it, and gives you the ability, if you have that mindset. And I think that's what, more than anything, again, you've probably read the book Greatness, or at least know of it, but that's something that I think it's just either in you or it isn't. A lot of people aspire to it, but it's something that, because again, I don't know that I'm great at my job now by any stretch.
Sure seems like
but
you
I
are.
still apply that same aspect. I still have to recognize that other people aren't like that. Taking a day off is absolutely natural to them and something they believe that they should do, which again, they should. I'll take days off, but there's never a time when this isn't going. And it's always about this job and aspects of it, and getting better and growing. We have success in NXT. Everything's going well. None of it's good enough for me. And
what would good enough look like?
I have absolutely no idea. I'll say this. For me, NXT has been something that has, and I mean this in a good way, but I don't know that it's been an actual revenue driver for the WWE. It's been an investment, and a solid one, and a great one. I would love for it to be able to be both. I think if there was any goal that I would want to, is that NXT is not only providing the future of the WWE, but it's also something that makes the WWE a profit. And I don't know if it's ever done that.
I would have to think with this new deal with the CW, that's where it shifted over to being profitable. I'd have to think that.
I think that it is, or it's pretty close, but those are aspects that I don't know. I couldn't honestly say, because that's a bunch of numbers, and that would probably be a Nick and Hunter answer. But even then, and then we're talking again. Then it's because there's kind of two worlds of, okay, now it's, even if we achieve that, it's going to move on to something else. And then it's, I want to be, I have this idea from numbers and stuff like that I would like to get to, whether it's television, whether it's live events, whether it's PLEs, and it being a real official third brand. And I know that it certainly is in many aspects, but I want it to be a third brand like the NCAA. Again, that's something is an extremely successful, aspect of the WWE.
You seem to speak about this with the same passion that you speak about with your in-ring career. Like the same passion is there. It's like you were able to transfer what you had there, and like that focus over here. Not everybody has a career after wrestling that looks like that.
Yeah. Well, again, and that's goes all the way back to Hunter inviting me to come the first time. And again, one of those things that it's funny because the two people in the world that know me the best are my wife and Hunter. And and yes, I get the jokes that everybody throws about between the two of us. But he just said, I just needed you to come in and stick your foot in, and I figured the rest would take care of itself. And my wife says, no, he did the slow boil to you. You know what I mean? He put you in the pot, and then before you knew it, you were in there boiling. And she said, and that's who you are. And so, and it is, and that's what I was built to be doing this. I have, again, we all are given gifts and purposes in our lives. I 100% truly believe that I've found mine. And it does like that. I love it. And I'm fortunate. And again, I know one of them sitting over there, but, our head writer and Matt Bloom are two people that they go about their jobs the same way. So I have like-minded people that, again, we live it all the time and we don't really take days off. Yes, we have lots of people around us that aren't always the same, but if I just have a couple like-minded people around me and I know that I work for guys that are like-minded, I know Hunter's the same way, I know Nick is the same way, and that's what makes it so fun. That's what makes it a blast. We're all like-minded in that respect, and I don't know, and it's an awesome thing. I get to wear a suit. I kind of look classy. I don't look like the trailer park trash that I really am. And so, but I get to do a job that I really, really dig. And it makes the lives of a lot of young people, so much better. And it's just got so many rewarding aspects to it. And yes, I guess some of them can be self-absorbed at the same time, I guess, but I don't know. There's just so many upsides to it. I can't see, that much downside. And so who wouldn't want to be a part of something like that?
Well, look at this wrestling epicenter that has now been created in Orlando. Because it's not just the PC, it's not just NXT, it's also Evolve and LFG and all the NIL talent and the collegiate athletes that are coming through there. TNA has a lot of stuff going on there. Just something has changed in Orlando over the last 10-ish years. And when people think about pro wrestling, Orlando's the place.
Yeah, well, and again, that is the brainchild of Triple H. And it was a fantastic idea. And look, there are times I can kick myself for not jumping in on the ground floor, but I think I needed my time away, and I needed my time away with my family, and just kind of a rest from the wrestling business. But what he built and what he began there was something that was, I don't know. I guess in some respects, people go, it's not, it's not like some kind of crazy genius idea, but more than anything else, it's the culture. It's the environment there that he instilled in that place. And to be perfectly honest, one, as everybody knows, this was not my goal to be in this role, but it was just to continue to help, grow the performance center and continue to build on that culture because it was so unbelievably positive. That was the thing that was really, sort of the nail in the coffin for me, which was who doesn't want to be around this very positive atmosphere, and this positive atmosphere that's going to hopefully one day resonate in the WWE and be a culture that's very different than the one that we all grew up in. And again, that's not to say it was unbelievably horrific because we're all living incredibly blessed lives, but it was very different, and it was harder, and it was rougher, and it wasn't as, I don't know, compassionate and understanding. It wasn't where it needed to be. And the WWE has come to such a place in, I don't know, the American, we are, again, I guess, sure, we're not the NFL yet, I guess.
But it's in the cultural zeitgeist.
It is, it is a part of, of who we are. It's been a part of I don't run across anybody that doesn't have an experience with the WWE at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And that's really, really cool to be a part of something like that.
You know how many kids have said "suck it" because of you?
Yeah. Yes, and ruining and screwing up a generation. And I get to take credit for some of that, my own included. But so anyway, so it was hard not to want to be a part of that. And more importantly, though, but it's to continue to build on that culture, continue to give back to the business in a real positive way. And that is something, again, so when it comes to, again, Evolve, where we're reaching out now to the independent wrestlers that are out there, we know how tough that scene can be. And we at least want to, the ones that we see real promise in, we at least want to help and at least let them know, like, hey, we see you and there's an interest here. You can continue to build on, we don't have the money right now to be able to get you in on a full-time basis, but we can help you continue to build and learn on your craft, knowing that we've got an eye on you. And when that time comes, you can make that jump to being in Orlando on a full-time basis. LFG, which is something that, again, I don't know, with that, it's a little bit of a glimpse at what it is we do there in the Performance Center, but it's an hour show and it doesn't have the ability to be as thorough as we are there, in Orlando. And then, of course, NXT and I don't know, and the crossover with AAA and TNA, as you mentioned. We just want to make, yes, the WWE is the global juggernaut that it is, and we always want that to be the case. I guess I'm not going to at least try to sit here and BS everybody about that. We are absolutely number one, and we want to stay that way. And we also want to become, again, more ingrained, in that same culture that we're talking about from an American, and not just from an American standpoint, but a global standpoint. But we also want to grow this industry as a whole. And if it's a partnership with AAA or with TNA and reaching out to some of these independent people, we're going to do that. And that's something that's unlike what the WWE has done in the past. And so I'm honored to be a part of that. And again, to try to help a number of people, do the same stuff that I got to do, but be able to do it on a global level is clearly what everybody wants when everything's said and done.
This episode is brought to you by Blue Chew. Does it work? Well, find out for yourself. They're making it so easy. Your first month is free when you use the code CVV at BlueChew.com. Just sign up there at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part is this is all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. They say there's nothing sexier than confidence. Well, Blue Chew gives you the confidence where it really counts. Make life easier by getting harder. And discover your options at BlueChew.com. Like I said, they've got a special deal going on right now for anybody watching this. Try your first month of Blue Chew for free with the code CVV. You just have to pay $5 for shipping. That's code CVV. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and all of the important safety information. And a big thank you to Blue Chew for sponsoring the show.
When I look at your career in the ring, it reminds me a little bit of Kobe Bryant. He had a Hall of Fame career as 8, Hall of Fame careers 24. You had a Hall of Fame career up to 1998, a Hall of Fame career from 2002 on. How do you look at those two different eras of HBK?
Well, sure, before and after. One, from a personal standpoint, obviously we know the difference and we know whatever it is you want to call it, before the back injury, after the back injury, before saved, after saved, whichever way, troublemaker, much easier to deal with. Honored to have had both, and both served their purposes, certainly in my life. I always tell people, of course, I would love to go back and to have had the opportunity to do the first part different. However, I don't know, I'd be lying, I guess, if I didn't say that I don't know where I'd be at today if I didn't go through that. And I don't know that I don't know how successful I'd have become had I not been that way. I was just so, yes, a lot of it people look at as very negative, but I didn't think I had any other chance if I didn't push that way. Probably overly paranoid, I don't know. Whatever it is you want to call it. I just didn't think I had the luxury of what everybody else did. And I don't know that that's fair. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to justify.
Do you mean like because you weren't as big?
Sure. I think, sure, everything stems from that. Everything stems from an insecurity within myself about who I was. None of it had to do with the ability. Because look, a lot of times in this job, especially when you're young, you say, I'm good enough. We make applications to this line of work like you do in football or basketball. If I can do A, B, C, and D, I ought to be the highest paid. I ought to be able to do this. I ought to be able to do that. Our job isn't like that because it's not what those are. And it was very hard to get that through my incredibly thick skull at that time in my life. I think on paper, I was better than 99.9% of the people that were in the wrestling ring. That's irrelevant. It's not totally irrelevant, and no, it's not like it doesn't mean anything. But it, again, whatever it is you want to say, again, like there are a lot of people that get a kick out of saying, he didn't draw money, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. I can't argue with that.
Didn't you main event 5 WrestleManias?
I did, but you can also say I made more money after I came back and drew more money after. I don't know. And again, there's like I said, there's all sorts of caveats, and that's one of those things again in that book. Greatness is very kind of the times, fads, trends, different times. Who's the best basketball player of all time? Is it LeBron James or is it Michael Jordan? If I ask somebody that's under 30, they're going to tell me it's LeBron James. Yeah. You ask me, and I'm going to tell you that it is Michael Jordan, and nobody will ever convince me differently. But it's never going to get proven. And same with mine. It's never going to get proven. And I can probably tell you, I don't know how much now Michael Jordan or LeBron James cares about that. I know Shawn Michaels doesn't. I'm honored to be in the conversation. Who cares after that? But if you'd have asked me that at 28, the answer would be totally different. It would mean a lot to me. And that was the biggest difference. Again, it was more about, perspective and getting my priorities straight and understanding that there are things that are bigger than this line of work. And how can I be great at all of them? Or at least have the mindset of being great at all of them, but doing them in a way that I can also be proud of doing them. And that, I think that was the biggest part of the change.
Do you think when you look at somebody else's career as a whole, that there's anybody who's objectively better than you were?
Yeah, well, look, I don't know. I guess I would say that I know that I thoroughly love being in there with so many of them. I think because ours is kind of a joint aspect. And so I don't know. I had great chemistry with so many people, but I think I had great matches with Angle. I had great matches with Hunter, had great matches with Taker, had great matches with Jericho. Heck, I had great matches with Jeff Jarrett, numerous other people. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some people.
What about Brett?
Yeah, I had great matches with Brett. But again, I don't know. I can't express it enough in that none of those things are really relevant. I think I was great at what I did, and I think other people were great at what they did as well. They're just different in so many ways. And again, it's, greatness is more a mindset, I think, than anything else. And if you have that for your goal, I think it's incredibly productive, and I think it's incredibly positive. But if it's something that, you base every aspect of your being around it, certainly for me at one time, it wasn't a healthy thing for me to do until I was able to do it in a way that I began to apply it to every aspect of my life, whether I achieved it or not.
I think everybody knows you got to turn it up for WrestleMania, but nobody put it into another gear like you. You're Mr. WrestleMania for a reason. How were you able to flip it into that gear in a way that nobody else was able to?
I would imagine it's probably because that was the one. All of them I gave a lot of thought to, insight to, work on. This WrestleMania aspect bordered on probably a pretty close, dangerous obsession. It was something that even, again, when I got myself together, I always comment that my family knew that about 3 days away, I would just go into this other place, this other mind space. And they always wondered, like, why do you bring us? Why do you bring us when come Friday night, you just tune out? And, and I had to explain to them, it's just your presence. I like having you there. I don't have to be talking and engaging with you, but having you there, I can feel you, and that makes a difference. But because there are times I've never sort of called anybody out, because there's so many people that, whether, they go on a podcast, oh, we just called it out there. Oh, we just did this. We just set it up here. Oh, we just kind of did this. It might have been for them, not for me. I went over every little thing, went over every possible scenario, went over every aspect of could happen, might happen, if it does happen.
For every match or just WrestleMania?
Everything. Well, yes, no, especially for WrestleMania. And that's what I'm saying. That was the difference between WrestleMania and the other ones, was the amount that I would do that. You sort of go TV, PLE, and then WrestleMania. And there are just different levels that I would have of application of, again, bordering on obsession. And WrestleMania was clearly something that I was weeks in advance going through, thinking about. And again, I've told the story with Rick, where, again, it was, many days out. I might have been a week out, and waking up in the middle of the night and just having this, whatever you want to call it, a flow of consciousness about the end of the match. And this, again, what it ended up being. And I was writing it down, and coming to the end, and again, it's stuff that sounds like it's a movie scene, and the little tear drops on the paper, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I see that, and I think to myself, like, oh, I don't know if this is great or if I'm the biggest wuss in the world. I don't, who thinks about pro wrestling like that? But the easy answer was, I do. I do. And I don't know. And I did when I was a kid. And then as a grown man, I was at a place in my life to where I was able to sit back and see this picture. And I was able to talk to my buddy in high school, who, again, was another person, and he's just sharing with me, like, gosh, would you have ever imagined when you and I were sitting there at my parents' house watching Ric Flair on Championship Wrestling, oh, I'm the next boy, that you'd now be having his last match at WrestleMania? And those types of things, and being able to put that in perspective. And so all those thoughts in my head, and trying to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden this comes of it. And again, it turns out to be a love story. And
how can you not be romantic about pro wrestling?
Well, it is. And that's what it was trying to prove. And thank goodness, again, there was a movie, that you can, same thing about baseball. But for me, it was pro wrestling. And it was my hope that it wasn't just mine. And thankfully, again, it did. Thankfully, it moved Rick, and it moved Michael Hayes enough for them to go, like,
But it's also the production there. Like, the camera cuts to you at the exact moment. I'm sorry, I love you. Wide shot, sweet chin music.
And but it was real that day. And it was real that week for Rick. because he was weeping the entire time and almost the entire match. But especially at that part, he knew it was the end. He knew it was the end of the match. And I know people again, they'll even say, "Oh, you're going to wrestle again." Not at that moment. Not at that moment. Everybody was so invested in that because for that moment in time to us, it was real. And that's what's the difference between, again, you go back all the way to maybe to your first question, and that is about the teaching and the coaching. Those are some of the things I don't know. Only the talent of today or the talent of tomorrow, that when they come up, I don't know how many of those things will be real for them. I don't know how many of them will have this love affair with what we do, like we did. I say my generation, or that I do. But that's not for me to decide. I still teach or convey or coach, run, whatever word it is that describes what it is I do. I still do it with that aspect in mind. And I still have moments. I was fortunate to have one just the other day with Trick Williams, to where we meet on a very human level. And I'm able to step outside of the boss and all that. And it's just, Michael Hickenbottom talking with, Patrick Belton and about things that are bigger than this business. And hoping that will move him in a way that helps him in his career. So I don't know. Again, as with everything, I do it with every ounce of my being in the best way that I know how. And that match that night with the Nates, just like with Taker, we're the ones that, all of your heart, the fullness of your heart was into it. And it's hard it's just hard for it not to go well.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't know if anybody had a better 3-year WrestleMania run. 24, 25, 26. Ric Flair, Undertaker. 3 amazing matches. Which one of those meant the most to you?
I guess the political answers, they all mean a lot for different reasons. But if I'm to be objective, I think it's 25, the one in Houston, because that's the one that everybody talks about. That's the one that gave me the ability to say, I think I'm ready to walk away. It's time. That was the one that felt so good to me that I could look across the car to my wife and go, that might be the one I needed to end it on. And she's like, seriously? And I said, yeah. I just felt complete after that one. Knowing full well there probably has to be another one, but that was when I knew it was time to start. I don't know, think about it, talk about it, and be good with it. I mean, that, and that's I didn't know it at the time, but that's the biggest aspect of it. That's why that match is special in a different way. I knew not only that I was coming to the end, but there was such peace with it. And no matter how it was going to happen, that peace was going to continue. Because that's the part that's hard for everybody. I've watched so many people, and I think that's what I'm most thankful for. It wasn't difficult for me, and it never has been.
Do you remember in the interview with JD McDonough how we both wouldn't shut up about how much we loved our sweatpants from Viore? I got so many messages, so many emails from people saying, what were the pants that you guys were talking about? Well, here you go. I'm wearing them right now. They are the Sunday Performance Joggers from Viore, and they are insanely comfortable. They're just so versatile and comfortable. You can wear them to the gym. You can wear them when you're running errands. You can wear them when you're going to the office. Not only are Viore's clothes buttery soft, I'm actually dressed head to toe in Viore right now. I'm wearing the Ponto Performance shirt as well. Look at this 4-way stretch, and just imagine how good that feels on your skin. So get yourself some of the most comfortable and some of the most versatile clothing on the planet. Viore is giving you 20% off for new customers. Just go to viore.com/CVV or click the link down below in the description or the pinned comment.
How'd you know it was time to say goodbye?
I don't know. Again, just that match was just, I don't know. It was, maybe it was the culmination of that match and with Rick, and then it's going on to the, and at that time I didn't know it was going to be Taker again, of course. I don't know. I felt whole after that. There didn't feel like there was anything left to do. What more do you do? Except more of the same. And again, I guess that's fine, but then you're doing it for so many other reasons. And none of those have been why I've ever done this. Even at my worst, when I was complaining and bitching about money or spots or places and titles and anything, it was still never really about the financial side of it. It was more about the work of art I was doing. I don't know that I conceptually knew that at the time, but as I got older, it was just more about, I don't know, knowing what this finished picture looked like. And at the end of that match, I felt so comfortable with where it was. I felt like the only thing left really was to, I don't know, sign your name on it. That's why it drives everybody nuts. That's why that last one, whatever, in Saudi doesn't do anything, doesn't have an effect on me one way, shape, or form.
Do you still consider that match at Crown Jewel your last match, or is it the one with Undertaker at 26?
Yeah, it's that one with Undertaker, because that, again, the other one, I don't know, it was a tag match, it was DX, and I feel kind of bad because I don't mean it in a negative way, but that was just sort of like, I don't know, it was like Kiss going out and not even with, the original members or whatever, and playing a concert at the Troubadour or something. I don't know. And it's like, I thought but they're not really retired. And I know Kiss is never retired, but I don't know. That just felt like like a special separate one-off. HBK and Mr. WrestleMania, the showstopper, whatever. That was what ended with Taker at WrestleMania, and because they still came back and refereed the match between Hunter and Taker, and again, and will always play a role in the WWE. I don't know would it count if I went into the Rumble this year or something? No, don't get me wrong.
Are you going to?
Oh, heavens no. Probably should have said that. I was just using that as an example. Here we go. Like, oh, yeah. But no, it was just, I don't consider that, I don't know. I don't consider those a match. A single performance by me, by HBK, by that guy. That's not who that was. That was a dude hanging out with his buddies. I don't know. And having a match, I don't know. And so one was the artist. The other one was a dude, like I said, hanging out there with his buddies.
There's a promo that I've always wanted to ask you about, and now you're in front of me so I can ask you about it. It's right before Survivor Series in 1989. It's the Rockers, and it's a promo with Ultimate Warrior and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And Warrior is wrapping you guys up with tape. Do you remember this?
Vaguely. I've seen it, again, I see it on little memes and
he's
stuff like that, yeah.
Warrior's like almost suffocating himself. You're trying your best to like be able to breathe through this. What's going through your mind as this is happening?
Well, that was just at a time when, again, there was just no, there was no creative team, there was no writing, there was no anything. And that was just Jim being Jim. You didn't know what he was going to do on a promo, and same with Anvil, and arguably same with us. I mean, Marty and I might have sat there and went through like, hey, we'll say this, say that, and there might have been a quick powwow between all of us, but Jim's obviously the top guy here, and he goes off and doing what he's doing, and you just are along for the ride. So yeah, no, that's one of those ones where I don't know. That's probably a one take shot. We're done, and that's that. And even if it isn't good, Jim's gone, and so that's it. I'm done, and we're like, okay, here you go. So again, just a very different time from a company standpoint.
I've had the opportunity to talk to Shelton Benjamin about that incredible match you guys had on Raw. And in my opinion, the greatest Sweet Chin music of all time. Walk me through how you guys were able to set that up and make that so memorable.
Well, before we went out there, certainly wasn't something we're going to make this memorable. We just knew that Shelton was a hell of an athlete. He could do anything under the sun. We were doing everything we could to have a good match. And that was something that I'm trying to remember, and I can't say for sure it was Michael Hayes, but it was something that, and it's a finish that certainly I've thought about before, but it's such a timing issue. And, but it came up, and then of course, where we had it set, which was almost all the way across the ring, and you've got to get a long way. And of course, so you're with Shelton, so there's a part of you that knows he can do it, but you were into the match. There's so many possibilities for things to go wrong. We have athletes up and down our PC, but after they've been in a 15-minute match, you don't know that by the time they go through 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whether they're going to be able to do at the end of the match what they say they can do at the beginning. But I do remember Shelton saying, like, again, asking him, like, can you get up and, can you do the springboard stuff? Can you get all the way over there? Oh, yeah, I can get over there. I mean, it was no, of course, and of course, in your mind, you're going, well, of course, not saying you're not the athlete that can't get over there, but it's just, at that point in time, and you feel like, oh yeah. Like, I mean, I could, if he could have said I could do that, I don't know, with no sleep and half awake, that would have been what he said, because Shelton he really is an amazing athlete, and he certainly and was even so good then. But then it's all about the timing, and it's me getting the foot up there, and all you can do is go out there and do it and hope that all of that timing is right. And that was one of those moments where everything comes together. And what's great is that it was also on top of a really fantastic match.
Such a good
match. You can have a finish like that, and it's still going to look spectacular, but if the build-up to it has not been overly glorious, it'll still get a reaction, but it doesn't quite mean as much. And it was such a good match to where people didn't know who was going to win, and then being able to pull it off out of the blue like that, out of something, and kind of stealing it, if you will, or a lucky last shot, was just a perfect ending to it. And I will always say this about Shelton. He was a guy that was so good, with such natural ability. The only I can remember saying to him after the match, I said, hey, just to throw this out there, but this is what I've learned over the years, is that you can have a great match, and that's always awesome when it puts you on the map. And not to imply that you're not already on the map, you certainly are, but I have found that how you follow that up is sometimes almost as important as, again, what it is you do in that match and how it ends. And I don't know if he ever remembered that, but it's one of those things where I was trying to suggest that, like, hey, you might want to see if you can lean on them to get them to maybe do something about that, or do something more with that, or have somebody, get you into another story off of that. And I don't think that ever happened. And that's one of those things that I always felt like, I don't know if, again, and it's not for me to say, because I don't know if Shelton did or didn't have the opportunity to do that. But I was always very proud of that match. And it's one that everybody remembers. I don't think I see more finishes repeated more than I do that one.
Yeah.
And he just did such a great job on that. The timing of it, he sold it like $1 million. And again, I'll say that the finish was fantastic, but I was really proud of the match that we had on top of it, because that kid could go.
One more moment I want to ask you about is, take me into the rafters before your zipline entrance at WrestleMania 12. What's going on there? What's going through your head?
So that's just, again, more honestly than not, you're so focused on the match. one of the things I will say, I tell everybody the story because I always have to have a last minute pee break before I go out. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, again, this was before, again, the world was like we have it now, but there were times I would be in Gorilla and would have to turn around and just go in the trash can right there because I would just always have kind of a nervous one right before I went out. I had the same thing there. And so up at the top of the, there's all the insulin, or not the, what do they call it? The stuff that you...
Like insulation?
Insulation, yeah. The insulation up there on the top. So I had it there. So before I got strapped in, I had to go a little bit. So I had a small urine break up there on the top of the Anaheim Pond, and then pulled my drawers up and then strapped in and went. And honestly, it was the most focus that I had to try to have, which was not going down to just like this, thinking of the match and thinking about everything that we were doing, trying to have some type of excitement, charisma, emotion going down.
And also being present in that?
Yeah, that's exactly. And trying to let go of everything that's got to happen in the next hour. That to me was the most challenging aspect of that. And again, even though I wasn't the praying man that I was, many, many years later, I do remember also just, please don't let anything happen. But I was over the whole thing. Let all this go well. And of course, not everything under the sun goes well, but more often than not, I'm thankful that that was such a unique entrance and something that is, I'll say this, I don't know if I would be included in so many of the WrestleMania moments or the openings of the shows or cold opens and stuff like that I'm a part of, had it not been for that entrance. So I'm thankful for it for many different reasons, because it was something that not a lot of people have done, and it's something that people remember, and obviously proud of that.
30 years later, we're still talking about it. Thank you for such a great conversation, and congratulations on everything that you did in the ring, and also congratulations on everything you're doing now with NXT and the PC and everything around that. And I'll end this interview asking you the question I ask everybody, because gratitude is such a huge part of my life, Shawn. Wake up every day, I say out loud 3 things I'm grateful for. I do it before I go to bed. I would much rather focus on the things I have than the things I don't have. What are 3 things in your life that you're grateful for right now?
I am unbelievably grateful for my wife and children. I don't know if that counts as 1 or 2. And look, because it's them and I am. I'm thankful again for my wife that she brought, my faith into my life and, those children into my life, which was, for me, that is the linchpin for everything in my life. And I'm very thankful for this business. I don't know where, I have no idea where I would fit in the rest of, in the rest of the world. I have no idea. And it's those 3 things. It is my faith, it is my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It is my wife and children. And it really is this business and this place, because it's the WWE that's put up with me. I guess in some forms the wrestling business has, but I think the wrestling business, because of my, at least my talent and what I was able to build, would have put up with me no matter what and given me the means to make a living. But honestly, this place, the WWE, and I know that sounds like just a corporate shill job, but they have put up with me for, as you say, almost 40 years. And look, I've been more positive now than I ever was on the negative. But they've always been there, always supported. And this is a hard business. It is a business. It needs to be. It should be. It's supposed to be. But no matter who's in charge, this business has still been very compassionate and understanding and patient with me. And so I'm thankful for that. And I mean, those are the 3, because I don't do anything else. I have no other gift. Oh, I suppose I have them, but I've yet to find out what they are. So I'm thankful for those three things, and for stuff like this. I'm thankful for that career that I was allowed to have, that I get to talk about. But it's all built on this job, and they're all so intertwined with one another that I don't have one without the other. And again, in my faith, it says 3-cord strand. It's supposed to be my wife, my wife and I, and the Lord. And it's the same way in our life. It's them, it's this business, and it's Him. And that is a 3-cord strand that has been so unbelievably strong in my life that I have found that if I have that, I don't know that I need much else.
Well, I think I can say on behalf of fans everywhere, thank you. Thank you for being one of the greatest of all time. Thank you for all of the memories and the incredible matches. And thank you for this today.
My pleasure, and I apologize if I was very long-winded.
No, you're the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.